Welcome to the wedding dish. Grab your fork and knife and take a seat at our table as we dish on all things wedding. Today, you will hear stories and tips from real couples and wedding pros, as always, about life, love, and entrepreneurship. I am Sarah Alapin, the host of The Wedding Dish and the CEO of both Photos from the Hardy and District Bliss. Today, I have my stinky little co-host snoring down here very loudly, Clouseau, the Frenchie, and he has been a fartosaurus today. It has been so there. We're looking at a solid chance of a slight interruption here today. I cannot believe my guest is laughing so silently. That's an impressive skill. You're about to find out all of the other impressive things about her. She is a married human who is just absolutely delightful. She is a long distance relationship survivor. She's a wonderful family woman, also a dog mom, and a recovering teacher like myself, the founder and CEO of Teen Forward, Myka Hansen. Thank you so much for being here on The Wedding Dish with me today.
Hey. Now I can laugh out loud.
Technically, you could have the whole time. I am the worst at silent laughing. I don't know how you didn't just, strain a muscle in your gut or something.
Spartosaurus almost sent me over the edge.
He's such a little stinker. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to hear your story. And I really so much enjoyed the conversation that we had offline, when you were filling out your questionnaire for your show notes for this episode, about how much fun you were having reliving your wedding day.
Totally. Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best. It's so much fun to sit down and reflect on important points in your lives. And we don't really take the time to do that very often. It's really easy to just keep pushing forward or reflect a little bit, but I'm really glad that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was super fun, especially a few years after. So all the ouchy points are a little bit less ouchy, and all of the good moments are like, oh, good, it's still happy. So yeah, it was super fun.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. So let's dish. Tell me
Hey.
how you two met.
So the story of how we met is like the funniest story of how we didn't meet for a super long time. We went to the same college together for 3 years, very small college in southern Minnesota. He came from Oregon, I came from Minnesota, and we never met in college. And then I graduated, he stayed in to finish his senior year. And then we ended up teaching in the same school district for like 15 years. And we didn't meet for any of that time until the very end, including 3 years when we taught in the same building. And yeah, it was absolutely the craziest thing. Like, we talk about it now, all the people we know in common, all of the we have friends in common that we never thought to introduce us or anything along the way. And I switched out of the classroom. I was an English teacher. I switched into being a peer coach. So I had teachers on my caseload, and he was one of the teachers on my caseload. And I went in to do an interview with him, and I left and I was like, oh, he's like the nicest, funniest guy. It's so too bad he's married. And that was the last I thought of it. And then over the summer of 2014, I moved out to California for a few months. He got divorced. And when we came back together to the same school in the fall, we were like, oh, hi. And it was on.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. I love that the story of how you met is how you didn't meet.
Like 20 years we didn't meet each other. It's literally 20 years we didn't meet. And then all of a sudden met.
And how big is the school let me clarify which school I am referring to in that statement.
Yeah.
How big is, what is it called? St. Olaf?
Yeah. St. Olaf. Go Golden Girls, Rosen Island. Because she was from St. Olaf. um,
Really?
in the Golden Girls. Yeah, St. Olaf's not a real town, but one of the writers for the Golden Girls uh, went to the rival college in town, and so named the like dumb person after St. Olaf. So that's the St. Olaf story that always has to be told.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so how
Yeah.
many people went to St. Olaf?
At the time that we went there, about 3,800.
Oh my
So like so little. I mean, we didn't have classes together that we can figure out, but we absolutely had friends in common, like nonstop friends in common.
That is so wild. I
Yeah.
just like that blows my brain.
Yep. Yep. He was in orchestra with my college roommate, so they were in the same circle, same everything, and we never crossed paths at all in such a tiny, and it was a residential campus. You couldn't live off campus. So we all lived there all 4 years and never met.
How many dorms were I have so many clarifying questions. How many dorm buildings were there?
There were like 12. I think there was about 12
Okay.
dorms. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
was picturing like bigger dorm buildings, I guess. Like I went
Mm,
to University of Maryland, so all of this is like foreign to me.
totally. Uh-huh.
Um, where we had 38,000 undergrads. That's actually how many
Yeah.
undergrads we had when I went. Um,
That's so crazy. That's like 3 times the size of the town that St. Olaf is in.
that's hysterical. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad you did meet. And what was the first thing you noticed about him?
That he was so easy to talk to, which is funny because now I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like less on the stories, you know. But at the time, I was in love with just everything he had to say. He has these crazy blue eyes. Like people, one of my favorite stories about him is he went into to pay for gas when we were on a road trip, and he said there were these two teenage girls at the counter, like or like behind, you know, ringing the register, and one of them was like, "Your eyes are like oceans. Can I swim in them?" And and he did not know what to do. And I was like, that was a bet. First of all, one of them bet the other, and I was like, and they were so flirting with you. So his eyes get good attention too. So yeah, that's what I noticed about him.
Oh my goodness, I love it so much. All right, tell me about the proposal.
So we because we were long distance, we only saw each other about every well, like every few months, probably about every quarter, we saw each other. And he was coming out. I was living in Santa Barbara at the time, and he came out for Thanksgiving, and we were going to go up to Carmel. And when he got there, right away we went ring shopping, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually going to happen. I'm actually going to become a married human. I'm so excited. And then literally the next day, I started getting sick and like flu sick. And I was sick for several days. I was sick the whole
Oh
time he was out.
no.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like this can't happen right now, because I knew he wouldn't propose to me when I was sick because he wouldn't want me to remember it that way. But
Yeah,
also, if he didn't propose then, we needed to wait until Christmas. And that to me at the time seemed like a year, like impossible. And so I'm like, get better, get better. And so I was better enough that we drove up to Carmel, and the first night there, I got all dressed up in my proposal dress and did my hair, did my makeup, did everything. I was like, okay, we went out to dinner, Thanksgiving. I could hardly eat anything. I had like one sip of my drink, like because my stomach was still like, blah. And then we finished dinner, no proposal. We started walking around. He's like walking me through this like super sketchy park in Carmel. I'm sure it's beautiful in the day, but at nighttime it was like really weird and like nothing. Holding my hand. I'm like, can we get on one knee, buddy? Um, and then we went back to the hotel and there was no proposal. And I was like, how am I misreading this? And so then I got curious and he went to bed and I stayed up and I looked on his phone and in the notes on his phone and I found his proposal to me in the notes on his phone and I was like, okay, I can relax. It will happen. So then the next day we went to our favorite place for breakfast and we he was like afterwards he's like, do you want to walk down to the ocean? And I was like, yeah, I would love to. I would love to get proposed to anywhere, anytime. That's all I'm thinking about. And so we start walking. I'm carrying both of our food, like our to go containers, and he's walking like a weirdo. Like he's walking, like kind of turned away from me, and like he's never. And I'm like, why am I holding our to go dishes? Like, you hold these. And he's like, okay. So the ring's in his pocket, right? Which I didn't know. And he just couldn't take his hand off the ring, right? So we walked down Ocean Avenue. We walked down to the beach and it's gorgeous. And he's like, well, let's sit over here. And I'm like, okay. And I've like given up at this point. We're sitting um, and he like looks at me and I was like, hey. And he's like, Myka, he's like, from the moment I met you, and I have no idea what he said after that because I was like, oh my God, this is it, this is it. And it was so cool because it was like the beach was like full of people. Um, but we really were, it was like that moment where it was like you're the only two people on earth, and it sounds so cliche and I can't describe it any other way than that because it really was. I was like, nobody can hear us. Nobody can see us, but there's people like 3 feet from us. They have no idea what's happening. It's the coolest, craziest thing. And I was so excited. Of course, I was like, I think I said, like Phoebe. I'm like, hell yeah, I'll marry you. Like I didn't just say like yes or anything. I was like, hell yeah, I'll marry you. So that was the proposal. Yeah. No, it's nonstop. It's nonstop.
What a journey.
And that was just 2 days out of the whole relationship.
Oh my God. I love it so much. All right. So fast forward, when did you two get married?
We got married in October of 2018,
Okay.
and yeah, and we got married in Oregon, in the most beautiful little town called Newport, because his parents, his whole family, he has two. Let's see, he has a brother. Two. This is all part of learning. I'm an only child, so and I like tiniest family ever. He has so let's see if I can get this right. A brother, two stepsisters, two half sisters, and a half brother. Got all that in one little, and I had to meet them all and know all their names. It was crazy at the time, and they were all out on the West Coast. And his grandma was still alive at the time. She was like 94, 95 years old. And I was like, if we get married out there, maybe she can come to the wedding. She didn't end up coming to the wedding, but it was totally okay because we got to go visit her like the day after our wedding, and we sat in her little apartment with her, and she was so cute. And she's like, I want a 5x7 picture of the two of you. And she's like, not an 8x10 because that's too big. I want a 5x7. She's
Ah,
like, not a littler one because I can't see you then. And she was very specific, a 5x7 picture. So we got her a picture.
hey, woman knows what she wants. I
I know,
mean,
right? Yep.
you live
Yep.
that long, I'm guessing you know everything you want.
8x10 is too big, and a 4x5 I can't see. So
I mean, it checks out. I
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
that's accurate.
yep, totally.
I'm so glad you got to go see her. That is, I mean, that is still, it's nice that you were able to get married there so that, that she was like, she was still part of the celebration, even though she wasn't able to actually physically be at the wedding itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It was super fun. And it was really special just to be able, because we wouldn't have been able to talk to her very much and she would have been really tired at the actual ceremony. So it worked out really well. We just went and had like kind of a private audience with her, and we told her all about it, and she got to ask questions, and it was really sweet. It was really fun.
Aw, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
cute. That's really nice. Were you feeling on top of your game when you arrived?
No. Oh my gosh. No. No. So it
It
was, yeah, it was
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. So for those of you, if you are not married yet, and you are listening to this podcast, then you are so exhausted the day after your wedding, no matter what your wedding looks like. So for the day after my wedding, it was the longest that I had ever sat in silence in my entire life when we were driving up the coast after, after and Philippe was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm just happy."
Just happy. Yep. Yep.
We drove
Yep.
through Carmel that day.
See, there you go.
And how many people did you actually have at your wedding?
We had about 60. Well, we invited 60, and about 75 showed up because everybody brought their kids, which ended up being just fabulous. The venue was super amazing. I wish they were still in business, because they were absolutely incredible, but they retired. It was a married couple, and they retired and sold their house. And so we got married like actually at their home on the ocean, and they were super great. They were like maxed out at 60. They're like nobody else can come, and then more people showed up, and they just super quietly like set up extra tables, and it was just fine. I'm like, thank you for being awesome. So that was
Whoa.
very, very cool. Yeah, yeah. And then we had a bigger reception in Minnesota because we both live here, and had a bigger reception here with like 110 people,
Oh,
after
wow.
a few days after we got back. Yeah, for some reason, this introvert wanted like a big old party. It was the most stressful thing ever. Like, no
Yeah.
big parties from now on.
One and done.
Yep, yep, totally.
Oh my gosh. So tell me, what are your top 5 moments from your wedding day?
So top 5 moments. We had whales at at the wedding, which was amazing. Which I never saw, but I heard, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, whales showed up at your wedding!" And I was like, "They did," because I was crying and doing all the things. So
It's a
we
little
had
bit of a busy
apparently
day.
just a little, yeah. So while we were exchanging our vows, apparently there were whales that were in the background spouting and doing their like little whale thing. And I'm like, well, thanks for showing up, whales. So there's always like big jokes about, oh yeah, we paid extra for that. Um, we did another, like, one of my favorite moments is we did unity paintings, because I researched for because Dagan has two daughters who at the time were 15 and 11. And I had seen like a lot of like it seemed like everybody did like a unity candle, and I also knew um that so the girl's mom got married the month before we did, and so she and their family did a unity candle. So I wanted to do something a little bit different that was like a different thing. So, and like Dagan and I are kind of different people, so I was like, what can we do that's like not the kind of the like traditional step family thing. And so I saw this thing about doing a unity painting instead, and I was like, that is totally, because I'm an artist, Dagan's a musician, like Kira, our youngest, she loves to paint and everything. So I was like, that's got to be it. So our colors were for the painting were red, orange, white, and like a silver gray. And everyone saw Kira, the 11-year-old, grab the red paint bottle, and we were just all squirting them onto the painting and just letting it drip. Well, she grabbed it, she squeezed it super hard, and it just like shot out. And there was like an audible gasp, and everyone is like, Myka's dress. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, throw some red on here. Like, let's make this a, like, paint by number kind of dress. But it was super fun. So just and somebody captured the picture of her at the precise moment, and her mouth is like as big as her face, and she's just laughing, and is like it's such a great moment. Um, what else? I'm like totally like back in that, like I'm going day by day by moments. I kidnapped myself at my own wedding, which I loved because that's totally something I would do. I had all these like, so I was a little bit older when I got married. I was 41 when we got married, and so I have been to everybody's wedding. Oh, the dogs.
And they are not fartosauruses.
They are not. They're growlosauruses. Daddy just got home, so they're be excited. Um, yeah, they were so quiet and sleepy. Um, so and I was like, I want to be kidnapped, but I'm such a control freak that I didn't trust that anyone else would kidnap me. And so I'm like, hey, I'm gonna kidnap myself. Where should we go? And so we went to Rogue Brewery, is like right in downtown Newport. And so we went there literally between pictures and the ceremony, and my I was like, we're going to go to Rogue, and my mom is like, don't you dare. And I was like, oh, look at that, I'm 41, I will see you later. And we all went to the bar, had a flight, had a couple of pints, and then back to the ceremony we went. It was lovely.
That's such a fun idea. I love that. I also kind of love that because you mentioned that you're an introvert and you got to protect your energy. It's a long day
Yes. Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
lot of people. I mean, even for me as an extrovert, it was exhausting.
Yeah, it was a very I'm not used to that level of attention. And even that night after, so we had the reception on the site, but then this, like I said, it was a family and they go to bed at night. And so we did like an after reception party at a bar in town. And Newport's a huge fishing community. It's like super awesome, super like small town close. And this was like a towny bar. I walked in like my wedding dress, and it was like I, I must have walked in with a glow. I mean, I had like women coming up to me and like rubbing me for luck. Like I think I talked to every woman in that bar, and one woman was just like, what do you know? Tell me your secrets. And so many women were coming up to me like they wanted to bustle my dress. They were buying me drinks. Like everybody was like, I was a celebrity in Newport that night. And I'm like, I was total on introvert hangover the next day for sure because of just all the attention. Like, dude, I don't like to, it's fun, but yeah,
Yeah. It's like stepping into a different life for a day.
totally. Yeah. And like, I didn't go small with like my dress or anything. Like, I had a crown, I had like the big puffy dress because, introvert, but still wedding day. What are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, you do what makes you happy. You do what feels like you.
Mm-hmm. And I'm a
I
Gemini,
love
so
it.
I've got both sides.
Ah.
Don't look at
Ah.
me. Look at me.
It's the love hate and the hate love.
Mhm. Totally. Totally.
I love it. I love it. Well, we are going to take a super fast break on the wedding dish, and then we will be right back with Myka, who is also the founder and CEO of Teen Forward. And we will find out what that is afterward, too. Be right back. And we are back on the wedding dish. I am Sarah Alapin, your hostess with the mostest. Whoop! We've got a guest over there. I believe that's Diego, the
That's
dog.
Diego.
Uh, see, I'm learning. I'm learning. And while we were on break, Cluzo farted loudly, but Myka didn't hear
Mhm.
it. I am joined today by Myka Hansen. We're talking about her wedding, and I'm really excited to actually hear about some of the a little bit deeper stuff too. You're so far. This has just been a hoot, and I'm curious, is there anything that you would have changed during the planning process about the planning process, I guess?
Yeah, it was really hard to plan from 3,000 miles apart from each other, which I didn't really understand at the time. I thought, um, you know, I guess, well, I didn't even really think about it. And I didn't know everything that needed to be planned. That was the other thing. Is like I went
Yeah.
out the day after we got engaged and I bought my little wedding planner binder thing. And then I started to look at it and I was like, oh, yikes. And like only a quarter of it ever actually got filled out. But it was really, I found our wedding venue online and like sent the link to Dagan and I was like, see what you think about this. And he was like, I don't know, looks good. And I was like, great, we'll book it. And, he looked at a bunch of places in Minnesota for our reception, but we never got to visit anywhere together. We didn't get to like pick out, we kind of did because of the ease of wanting to have things just kind of all flow. We did basically like a one-stop shop with our ceremony venue. So they had the catering attached to it. They got our cake. They got our flowers. And I kind of wish that I had not gone that route. We did for simplicity, but it was sort of like I feel like I missed out on a lot of the like fun planning, like picking out your flowers and doing all those sorts of things. So it worked, but I definitely changed that if we were going to go back and do it again.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and you weren't planning where either of you lived either. So
Right.
it
Yeah.
was, you were planning a destination wedding when even just seeing each other was a destination.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And we had never been, well, no, I take that back. We'd been to Newport once as a couple before we got married there. But as far as like anything related to our wedding, we showed up in town and I had just moved back. I moved back from California to Minnesota 2 months before we got married. So that was all kind of happening all at the same time. It was a very, very crazy time, very busy.
Yeah, moving in the middle of wedding planning is something that I would never recommend to anyone.
Yep,
Moving is
wouldn't do it again.
terrible. I hate moving. I will die in this house.
Moving's the worst. It is. It is the absolute worst.
It really is, and then, like, you end up with boxes that you just never unpack because you get busy and oh my gosh. And were you still teaching? Because you got married in October.
We did, but I wasn't teaching by that time.
Okay.
I had
Or
been
were
out
you
in California for 2 years.
okay. Were
Yeah.
you still in the school calendar, I guess, is what I was thinking.
I'm still in the school calendar now. I can never really get out of that. No, and I was a student then too. I was getting my PhD. And so I was in the middle of coursework while planning a wedding, while moving, while, you know, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
I don't do things
That's
small. Not at all. Like the more complicated, the better for me.
is insanity.
Yeah, it was
I mean,
crazy.
good for you. Uh, glad you did it and accomplished it. I mean, but would not recommend.
Definitely not.
1 star on that. That's too many things. That's too many. Would
It's
not
too,
recommend.
yeah, yeah, yep, yep. It is nice though because now I like look back and like anything that I feel like didn't work. If I look at a picture and I'm like, oh, like because there was some issue about me fitting into my dress because I gained like weight and stuff, and I look back and I'm like I give myself grace all the time around that because I'm like if I think about everything that I had going on, it's a miracle that we got married at all. And
Yeah,
so it's like it's kind of nice to look back and be like, if I was doing it now, I would do it differently. But the person who's in this brain space is not that person. And
yeah.
this one learned to not do all of that all at the same time.
And clearly you needed to learn that.
I did very much need to learn that desperately.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, I can't even imagine. And you went from living alone to a house with a a significant other, two, well, a preteen and a teenager,
Yep.
and then two dogs.
2 dogs. Yep. Yep. And no, like, no job really. Like, I was still a student, so I was at home all day and, like, the chauffeur for the girls. Um, and it was like, I so I grew up, I mean, like I said, I was an only child, so I didn't have brothers and sisters, and it would mystify me when they would fight, the girls, because they would be at each other, and I mean loud noises and screaming and squealing and things that sounded like something really bad was happening. And I would go and check on them, and the silence would be because one of them was putting makeup on the other, and everything was fine. And then they were like little kittens, like curled up all together, like licking each other. I'm like, how, what, who are you? Like, how does any of this work? It was, as someone who didn't have siblings, to then become a stepmother to two teenage girls essentially was a shock. It was a culture shock to my entire system.
That is so fascinating, and something, as someone who grew up with a sibling who's only 18 months older than me, um,
Hmm.
that I have never thought about what it looks like to people who don't have siblings for, like, interactions.
Bizarre, bizarre, and especially like in the intimacy of your household, where you do whatever, and the girls would fight in the house in a way they never had fought. I had never seen them fight that way because I had never lived in the house. So I would, whatever, hear them on Zoom and things like that, or I guess Skype at the time, FaceTime. Um, but I had never been a part of it, and I was like, do I intervene? Do I stop them from killing? Is it like dogs where you just let them go at it until one of them like wins? Like, what's my role here? I really had no clue. Becoming a stepmother was like, I thought I knew. Like, everybody would be like, "Oh, teenage girls, like, are you scared?" And I'd be like, "No, they love me." I should have been scared. Like, I didn't have any a healthy fear. Like, just a little bit of like, okay, this is going to be a big change in your world, because it was wild.
Yeah, I bet. I would love to kind of hear a little bit more about that transition and how that was for you, because you were going from being long distance to then moving into the house, which is a huge
Mhm.
change, and it was their house, right? You didn't move into a neutral home.
Nope, their house. Yep.
Okay. Okay, because
Yeah.
I think that is a little different too. So you moved into two teenagers, preteen and teenagers, territories, which, um, I am a territorial human. Which might surprise you. Does that surprise you a little bit?
Yeah, sure. That totally surprises me. No, I can get, not a, yeah, like territorial in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very protective
Yep.
of my, like, people I love, and also like the space that I exist in. Um,
Totally. Hmm.
um, Micah and I, by the way, know each other from outside of this podcast. We are real life friends too.
Hmm.
Um,
IRL.
I love it. So you moved into a house that they already had their own space designated, set up. You were getting married to, becoming their stepmom. How was that process? In terms of, like, what was it like adapting? Were there challenges that you had to overcome?
Yeah, yeah. Um it was really, like, our first year of marriage was not easy. And fortunately, like, because we had been long distance, we actually had faced worse things, So it was, we were like, we didn't work for 3 years apart to not, to kind of not be successful in our first year of marriage. And it was really, I think, the hardest thing for me with being a stepmother and also having been a high school teacher was I was like, my high school kids loved me. I was a very popular teacher. I got along with teenagers super
I could
well.
see that.
And I was like the cool teacher with the really high expectations that they wanted to make proud of them. I was the theater director, all this stuff. So I just sort of assumed naturally that because they were the age that they were, and because I'm such an incredibly awesome person, that they would totally love me. Wah wah. And it was it was just not it's I think it was a very confused I think it was maybe especially confusing because I think they really did like me a lot, and that was jarring, I think, to everybody because as teenagers, they and especially as teenage girls, they love their mom. Like, mom to a teenage girl is like there is nobody else on the planet except maybe like, a boyfriend, girlfriend, a significant other. um and so for me to be a person who walked in and was like in their house and sharing their space and kind of a cool person, they were a little bit like, we don't know what to do with you or with the feelings that they had. And then also, I'm a super moody person. Like, I just am. And I try to not be a moody person, but usually the way I protect all of my loved ones from my moods is that I would go home to my house I lived in by myself and be moody. And now all of a sudden, my home where I would be moody alone had a bunch of people in it and a bunch of people watching me to see how I would act in the world. And I was like, ooh. Um, but but we all figured it out. I mean, and the girls too, because their mom got remarried, they were learning two new families at the same time, which I
That's
think was
hard.
really hard for them. And like really, really hard. And
Yeah.
so like, you know, as years have gone on, and now my oldest stepdaughter Bella, she's in college, she's a freshman in college. And there was definitely like there were like I joke a lot about it, but there were some like really low points. And things that should have gone a different way, and had they maybe not been in two brand new families, and if I'd been maybe more experienced and had maybe been around a little bit more, things might have gone a little bit differently. But it's like, you can't live that way. You only can live with what you know. And so it's, every day it's like, oh, okay, like I'm learning a little bit more about being a stepmom, and learning a little bit more about being, the wife to someone, to a father with kids. And like all the social perceptions around dads and how dads are with their kids. And like, I'm super protective of him because he's such a great dad. And, all of that has been like probably the biggest learning curve of my entire life. And I love to learn things. So it's been hard, but it's also been like, it's been good for me.
Um, that is amazing. I think it it's really like getting married can be an adjustment in and of itself. I can't imagine moving into, like, a pre-made family. I
Hmm.
just never, because it wasn't something I lived through, and I think it sounds like you worked really hard to make that a happy home. I hope not at the expense of your ability to be moody.
Uh, I still manage my moodiness just fine. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I learned is like, it really like, I'll say this like completely honestly, I did not do a good job as a beginning stepmom. Like, flat out did not. It's just, I didn't do a good job. And again, it's like, if I could go back and do it differently, I would do things so much differently. But yeah, it's like sort of having to come to terms with the fact that it's like, I'm usually pretty good at everything that I try to do. And this, I was like, wow, like that was a big mistake. Like that was a big fail. And I spent a lot of time like, apologizing to the girls, or a lot of times like just being like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why do I think that? And so it's been, yeah, it's been a humbling experience also.
And good for you for committing to, I mean, I would expect nothing less, but for committing to like continuing to improve and work toward a happy home. And I'm sure you're harder on yourself knowing you. I'm sure you're harder on yourself than what their memory serves. Um,
Yeah,
but I am very impressed that you are where you are after how many years has it been since you got married? 4,
3 years, like
three
four
and a
months,
half?
3 years. Yeah, almost 3.5. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's and
it's
now
crazy.
you said Bella?
Yeah. She's in
Now Bella could
college.
be not meeting her future husband
I
at college.
know. Exactly. Like, yeah. You two can be, walking on opposite sides of the campus together with no idea who your future person is gonna be. Like,
That is
oh
so funny. Oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah.
So I have a question. Do you think that your experience as being a stepmom is part of the reason that you founded Teen Forward?
It's a huge part of it. And so Teen Forward, the kind of overarching purpose of Teen Forward is to help teens, parents, and families navigate adolescence and come out the other side. And I say, people are like, well, isn't families kind of all encompassing? And it's like, no, because each of those, the teens need a certain type of care, the parents need a certain type of care, and the families need a certain type of care, all separately. And as I started to develop it, I was realizing that it really was my role as a step parent and as a stepmother, with all of I mean, man, stepmothers, that's an archetype of like, there's a story that comes along when you become a stepmother. Like, you pick up a lot of baggage that isn't yours. But and it's not even the kids that put it on you, it's like society that puts it on you. And I looked for everything. Like, I'm a researcher and I'm a teacher and a learner. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out the step parenting thing. And I found every book I could, and there just, there weren't the resources out there that I needed. And so that in part is why, Teen Forward came to be, is because step parents, and not just stepmothers, stepfathers too, who, I mean, if there's very few books for stepmothers, there's no books for stepfathers.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there. It's just sort of like, well, whatever, he'll figure it out. And so that was definitely a part of, and one of the programs that I have is dedicated specifically to step parenting and blended families, because it really is like, even just my experience, like, things went a good way. We all still talk to each other. We all, we saw Bella at the holidays. She came to visit. It did not need to go that way. It could have gone a different way that wasn't that good. And that happens in families, and it's really sad because it doesn't need to happen. And so that's part of what I try to do with Teen Forward, is make sure that everybody gets through the teen years with their values intact, with their personalities intact, and getting along so that they can enter their 20s, which is such a fun age, and be together as a family that still loves each other.
That's amazing. I think that's such a generous, wonderful thing that you're doing. It's such a natural segue from teaching too. Um,
Totally. Yeah.
in so many ways because you already know how to develop that rapport with teenagers.
Yeah.
And that isn't something that everybody knows how to do. Um, while you seem to think it may have set you back in the step parenting role,
A
I
little
think
bit.
in Teen Forward, it probably sets you way, way ahead, which is amazing. I'm really glad that you're providing that resource out there. And I'm really glad that you had such like a wonderful, story that with any imperfections that you may have seen along the way, it's still an amazing story.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't give up any of it. And it's really nice because it's like since I got married older, I've always imagined like I mean, ever since I was little, I was like, what's my husband going to be like? Am I going to have kids? What are they going to look like? And so that to have that now with all of its like like family drama and imperfections and laughter and jokes and like teasing and oh my gosh, what are they fighting about now? Like what just hit the wall? It's like that's my life and it's like so fun. It's great, and yeah, it's exactly what I was waiting for, and it was so worth the wait. Like I would say that to older brides as well. It's like it was so worth the wait to get what I have now that I just can hardly even believe that I get to like wake up in this family every day with like the husband that I have, and it's magical.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much.
Don't tell him I said that though.
I can't promise he won't listen to the podcast, but he won't hear it from me.
See, perfect, perfect. He'll listen. He's gonna be like, "I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Can you like?"
Just make that his ringtone.
I know, right? He totally will. Well, and he's the musician, so he absolutely can. He'll write like a song about it. He'll do ringtones and oh my goodness,
Oh
yeah.
my God, I love it so much. Well, Micah, thank you so much for joining me today on the Wedding Dish. This has been such a fun ride.
So
I
fun.
love your story so much, and you're just such a wonderful human. Where can people find you online?
So my Instagram is at Teen Forward, all one word, and my website's a little bit under construction right now, but it's making its way into the world. And the address for that is mykahansen.com right now. But my Instagram is super active. That's like the best place to find me. So at Teen Forward.
Yeah, and Micah, by the way, is spelled with a Y.
Oh
In
yeah,
case
yeah. Tell people that Myka, and then Hanson On, and now people have put their pens down. They're like, forget it. I don't even want to know. Never mind. At Teen Forward will give you all the information: my name, spelling, my website, my offerings, some freebies on there, like everything that you could ever want is on my Instagram.
perfect. And workshops. She does workshops all the time. So keep an eye
Yeah,
for those too. Um, I love it. Well, thank you everyone so much for tuning into the Wedding Dish today. While you're looking up at Teen Forward, you can also hit at the Wedding Dish podcast on Instagram and follow us. We'll have some graphics and all kinds of good stuff from today's episode. And then you can visit our website, theweddingdishpodcast.com, to get show notes from today. You can also apply to be a guest if you would like to share your own wedding story. You can get the transcripts from today's episode because we're committed to accessibility and all kinds of good stuff. So, and don't forget to tune in next week. I have another amazing guest coming on. No spoilers here. And also follow, rate, and review The Wedding Dish on your favorite podcasting app. And until we see you again next week, cheers, everybody.